Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy. What's up, guys? It's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday Show. Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today. Today, our badass guest is Ryan McMillan. He served 6.5 years as a Navy SEAL, exiting as a petty officer first class. He founded Graybo in 2014, located in Phoenix, Arizona. Simul to that, he hosts a podcast, The Ryan McMillan Show. You can catch Ryan on all social channels, and to take a deeper dive, go check out Graybo.com and give him a follow on your favorite podcast platform. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So I always start out with something unique because there's a lot of people who are in business who listen to this show and they don't understand, and they constantly have to hear what transition is really like from such an elite status to the civilian world. So can you share a little bit about what your transition out of the service was like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, mine was a little bit probably different than most people's because, my grandfather had started a business in 1973. My dad took it over, firearms industry. And it was something that as a kid, I wasn't really super interested in. But after I got out of the military and basically using some of those weapons in the military, I became more and more interested. So I kind of transitioned right out of the military into that. I didn't have to go through, the thought process of what I wanted to do, really. I just kind of knew that was where I was going to go. And for me, like, I needed to give it a shot at least because I kind of felt in a way obligated as a third generation to do that. I really kind of just moved from the military right into that job and just kept trucking.
So what was that like? You moved into the job. What was that job?
Well, at first it was like, my dad was running the company and we really weren't even sure what I was going to do, which was weird because you come from an environment where, we're at war during that time. I mean, I was in 2000 to 2006, so we're at war the whole time and you're doing kind of crazy things to getting in there and not, kind of just trying to figure out what my role was going to be. And for the first few months, it was pretty boring, quite frankly. It wasn't like he was hiring. I just, was there because I was a third generation. And so I got bored really quick and I needed to do something. So I actually ended up starting my own business kind of adjacent to it. Built it for a year. It was called McMillan Tactical. And it was just like doing kind of firearms. My uncle also owned a business and doing the firearms. My dad owned a business doing the stocks. And so like I was kind of working with my uncle to like distribute the firearms and try to help him sell them. And then in 2008, I had a little bit of success and my dad was like, hey, well, let's maybe buy the firearms company from my uncle. And so we did that. And that's kind of when things started to really get underway. But it was like a year where there wasn't, I was just trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing there. And so that was tough for me because I was used to just going all the time.
Yeah. Well, did you know that you had an entrepreneurial spirit or was there a clear path to this or did you kind of fall into it?
It was kind of falling into it. But so when I got out, I just was like, I need to go do this. This is where I'm going to go. I mean, I guess if I didn't have that to go to, I probably would have, just tried to go get some kind of job. But, my dad was a business owner. My grandfather was a business owner. So I knew that. And as I started to get more involved in the business, I really enjoyed it. Looking back at it, my military career, one of the reasons why I got out is because, as you guys know, like your life is not your own when you're in the military, especially during war. You just do what they tell you. Like you're going and like you just have no say of your own life. And that became mentally challenging for me. Like I just needed to have a little bit of my own space. And so I think business allows you to do that. There's a lot of stress and I'm okay with that. Like in the military, it's the same way. There's a lot of stress. So I was okay with that, but I really needed my own to create my own schedule to feel like I was my own human being. And even if that required a lot of work and a lot of stress, I was okay with that. So yeah, I mean, ultimately that I would say that I was kind of built for entrepreneurship in that way.
It's interesting, man, because, you talk about everything is kind of just go, go, go in the service, but then you get out and you have to now set the parameters for your left and right limits. And that was really the eye-opening thing for me, is like, you have this whole array of things you can do. I think a lot of guys in the special operations community are just born entrepreneurs. It's just natural because you got to figure stuff out, right? That's how we work. So, but setting those left and right limits, when I actually came to that conclusion, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been wide open right now and I don't even know how to operate for real. So it's interesting, man. And I'm not saying by any means I'm any kind of expert in entrepreneurship. Probably failed more than any kind of success, but it's cool to see what you're doing, man. It really is.
That's one of the most challenging things too about business. You like hit it right on the head. You know, when you're an employee, when you're a SEAL, when you're in the military, you do what you're told. Basically, you have a job description and you do it. Basically, when you're an entrepreneur, there's no job description. You have to figure out what to do, and people, I think, overlook that as a serious challenge. I mean, that's hard because you could do a lot of things that are not productive.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges of an entrepreneur is finding the most productive things and doing them and having the discipline to do them, and doing them when they're not producing results, knowing that hopefully they will eventually produce results. There's so many of those types of scenarios that most people will never understand.
Oh, yeah. There's no question, man. Well, you create this company, Graybo, and I want to learn everything about it. Tell everybody, why did you found it? What exactly you're doing, and how can we get involved?
So it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can. So my dad and I never really got along very well as I was growing up. Probably one of the reasons why I went into the teams anyway, because we just never liked each other. It was mutual my whole life. And so, but again, I felt after I got out, I had to go and give that a shot. And we were able to kind of work together for about seven years. But it just, we both knew it was just too difficult for us to work together. You know, both just hard-headed. You know, we both thought we knew everything, whatever. And so in 2014, we ended up selling the business I told you that we started, which was the greatest thing because we had enough of each other. But I ended up starting another company called Graybo because there was a lot going on in my life at that time. I had 3 different paths I was taking. One of them was starting Graybo, and actually Graybo was the path that I thought that I was going to take the least. It was like the least desirable path for me at the time after I sold that business. But I ended up starting it, and it kind of just was working on it, and it just became more successful. And the first thing we did was we got a huge contract from Remington right out of the gate, which pulled me in that direction of, you know, running that company because nobody else could. I thought there was a potential. So I guess I'll go back and kind of hit the other 2 opportunities where I had applied for the CIA and gotten in, but there's a waiting period. And they told me it was going to be about a year, but it turned out to be more like 2.5 or 3 years. And so during that waiting period, I was building this business. And then the third opportunity is I graduated with a degree in physics, and I was really interested in going to do a PhD. So those were the 3 kind of things that I had on my plate. The CIA was the first, I think, really the first one that I wanted to do. But the problem was it took about 2.5 years for them to onboard me. And they just kept calling me like every month, like, hey, you're just in the waiting process. I'm like, does anybody know when this is actually going to happen or what? In the meantime, I'm building this business, and it starts to get customers, and it starts to be clear that I have to manage this business. Nobody else can. I kind of uniquely know this business. By the way, the business is making rifle stocks, composite rifle stocks. And the business itself was an advancement, I would say, on the current like hand laid up fiberglass rifle stock technology, and to go into more of like compression molding and different types of molding to make stocks more affordable, more consistent, more, basically you can do more volume, all kinds of benefits to that. And the hand laid up stuff was really an old technology. So I was trying to use kind of modern manufacturing technology to advance that the rifle stock. So anyway, that was the business. It turned out that before I could get onboarded with the CIA, the business had become, I wouldn't say successful, but it was a business. It was a real business with real customers, and I couldn't leave it. And so that's kind of the origin story.
So that's amazing. So you basically, in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to go select for the CIA and put 1,000 things on your plate, and the one that you least think is qualified is the one that's going to happen for you. That's amazing.
Yes, I think that's the formula right there.
But it's awesome to have the array of things where because it's funny how you find yourself. The same thing with me. I have a firearms technology, and it was the last thing that I wanted to do after service. I had just done so much of this stuff that I was like, I kind of want to do something new. I want to reinvent myself. I want to try something different. And it's pulled me back into where I'm now on the sniper rifle a bunch again, and I'm actually shooting. And I'm like, okay, if I really want to make this real, I got to get fully involved and I got to immerse myself. And, to your point, if you can go back for those listening to day one of your training in the military, and you can act like that passion and that fire to want to succeed, you'll crush it in business. And I think that's where we have a step up, is because we have that background now, and how people typically perform as civilians. Not all, but there's a lot that don't perform. We already have the step up to crush it, but you have to be willing to do it. And so that's awesome, man. You create this company, you already know technology. You know that the technology that was within your family and out there was dated, you say. What did you do to change it? And talk us a little bit more about the details of what your company does exactly.
Okay, so to start that, I have to kind of talk about a little bit about like the old technology, which is a hand laid up fiberglass stock, which it's very labor intensive. It takes lots of hands on the process, and ultimately limits the quantity that you can make and limits the ability to sell to a broader part of the market because of the price, right? Like the more hands you put on it, the more opportunity there is for mistake, the higher the price is, all this stuff. So I knew, that process was developed in like the late 60s, early 70s. So, and that had never really changed. So I knew that there was manufacturing technology out there that could make better product. So, looking at different manufacturing technologies, like, different types of molding, it became clear relatively quickly, I would say, that there's better ways, or there's different ways that we could do this. So, looking at the different molds that were being used, I figured, like, instead of like hand laying this stuff up, I could basically press material, like really high quality material, into the mold itself under like high pressure, high heat, and create a stock that was just as good or better, but I could do it much faster, much more efficiently, lot less hands on. And I could basically create the same quality product for cheaper, and I could do it in a lot higher volume. So really, that's kind of what the whole concept in the beginning. There's other things that really spun out of that were positive that I didn't really understand when I started it, but we made some more advancements along the way in making the ordering process easier for the customer, because ordering a rifle stock is a nightmare. There's so many different options. How many different rifles are there? How many different barrel channels are there? Bottom metals, all kinds of different options. We started streamlining all of that. And one of the initiatives that was like kind of a secondary initiative is like make it so simple for people to order a stock that it's like they can just do it online in one click. And so I remember like back at McMillan, like they would have a sheet, like a whole sheet, like 25 questions they'd have to ask. Customers would have to take out their calipers and measure certain things, and then they don't even really know it. They don't know the nomenclature. They don't know how to measure. They don't know where to measure. So it was a real nightmare to do that. And we've really advanced in that aspect too, of making the purchasing of a rifle stock much simpler than it ever has been.
That's amazing. And everything that you do, it's made in America, is that reading?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's important. That's super important. And it's funny, you come out of the gate, you get a massive contract. I mean, everybody's dream.
Right.
But the key for yours is not only selling product, but really it's about efficiency. It's about new technology and efficiency, which is huge, because looking at it from the back end of the business side, we do have more shooters today than ever. We need product. The military, if you go for government contracts, need product and they need it fast, and there's always going to be need supply. So being able to streamline that process so that you can get more to the people who need it, the end users. Sure, law enforcement are a big customer as well. And then the hunting side. So You've streamlined the process. You've got these stocks now where it's turnkey and click to be able to order. Talk to me about that. So you said there's how many rifles out there, and there's different stocks for each. How does that work for you guys now? If I go and order a 300 Win Mag 338 Lapua, like what does that process look like for me?
Okay. Well, we are, so let me kind of talk about where we're going because I think that's important. In about 2 months, we kind of put the final phases into this process, and that is what we call kind of a mini chassis that uh, is unique. These mini chassis are unique to each action. So let me back up and say, there's probably 10 or 12 well-known, well-distributed rifles out there. So you've got Remington 700s and all the clones. You've got Tikas. You've got Ruger Americans. You've got Browning X bolts. You've got Savages. And the list goes on for a while. There's about 12 major ones, maybe more. And so the problem is you have to, every single one of those stocks that you make has to fit those. And that means, in essence, you have to have 12 separate molds, it's 12 separate sets of drawings, which all adds up to so much cost. And so on the manufacturer's end, you really try to eliminate that. And on the customer's end, they get confused by all these different options. So we've created this mini chassis. It's basically an insert inside the stock that we machine or that eventually we can mold. And we just swap in the stock. You put the mini chassis in, and then you can swap from stock to mini chassis. So let's say you have a Remington 700 and you have a Savage 110, but you just want one stock. You can buy the stock and two mini chassis, and they're all interchangeable. And basically, so to get kind of hopefully right to the point is like before, like I told you at McMillan, they had this huge page of like 25 questions. You had to measure everything. We're to the point where there's two questions to answer: what's your caliber, and what's the manufacturer of your barreled action? That's it. And then we'll be able to supply you without any further questions, and it'll fit.
That's amazing. You're putting a shoe on it. That's essentially it. That's amazing. It makes all the sense in the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And can you interchange because of that sleeve now? Can you actually put any stock on any rifle?
Yeah. Well, so as long as we have, this, we call the mini chassis goes inside, and it's basically what the rifle's bolted into, and then the mini chassis is bolted into the stock. We can interchange that. So as long as we are manufacturing the mini chassis, which are pretty simple, right? So like we say, okay, we want to manufacture these 12 different inlets. We call inlets, but those are the different rifles, Savage, Tika, Remington. We have 12 of those, and we've just chosen that's like 99% of the market. These 12 we're going to manufacture. Those can be interchanged in all of our stocks going forward. And so you can buy as many of those as you have rifles and put them in the same stock. Or the other thing is you can buy multiple stocks if you want, like let's say it's a tactical stock and a hunting stock, and then you just have one rifle. You want to switch back and forth. You could do that too. It's all interchangeable.
So you sell to everybody: civilian, military, law enforcement, anybody.
We would. We don't do a lot of military stuff because most of our focus is hunting because of the kind of the lightweight technology that we have and that we've put forth to the industry. Most of our stocks have really been taken up by the hunting community more than anything. And then, there's a competition community. I think, it's hard because the military doesn't buy stocks. They buy rifles. And so it's possible that, we've made stocks for a company that sold rifles to the military and we just don't know about it. But we don't sell direct to the military. Or really, sometimes law enforcement will buy replacement stocks, but most of the time they're buying rifles.
Check. Okay. Well, I have some contacts for you now that I understand a little bit better of what you got going on. This is pretty awesome stuff, man. So anybody goes to your site, answer the two questions, tell you the caliber, and you're basically off to the races as far as ordering your stock. And that's cool that you have the opportunity to order multiple stocks for that. That tactical to the hunting side is super key, because I can't tell you how many times I've been out with guys who are like, yeah, I just took my military grade sniper rifle out into the field to go hunting, and it's heavy and it's just all this stuff. And, I'm like, let's just go buy a hunting rifle. And they're like, yeah, I should. Now you have the opportunity to switch out, which is super cool. Yeah. Where in 5 years do you want to take this? Do you have any plans that you can even talk about, or what's the overall vision here?
The overall vision, we like, the goal is to be like our marketing saying is be everywhere. we like our direct to retail sales. It's the easiest channel for us to be directly communicated with the customer. But we also know that we need to be in stores. If we want to maximize our brand exposure, we have to be in stores. It's more challenging when you have a middleman. Middlemen are necessary in some cases. And I say middlemen like dealers, distributors, people selling your product in the middle between you and the customer. And sometimes there's layers of those. But for us to be, to maximize our ability to our exposure, we want to be in as many stores as we can too. So I'd imagine that could take a number of different paths. If we could get the exposure that we wanted with just going direct to consumer, we do it. It's the best way to do business. There's no middleman, it's just you and the customer. But at the moment, our goal is to, use distribution to get our product in a various stores. And so that's the path now. Where we are in 5 years, it could be one of those two paths where we have, good distribution or our products in stores, or where we kind of say distribution really wasn't our thing. We're direct to consumer and we have a big enough brand that people just come to us, dealers come to us direct instead of having like anything in the middle. So I don't know, it could go both ways. We're still kind of feeling that out. Now we're relatively new to distribution too. At least having like a rep group and a serious distribution network. So we're still feeling it out, but we'll see. And then internationally too, same thing. You have to have kind of a distribution network internationally. You just can't. We don't have enough employees or people, directly connected with the company to go and travel around Europe and different parts of, Africa and stuff. So you just have to use other people's businesses.
Absolutely. Well, for now, and when you grow.
Yeah.
And you will be able to do that. That's awesome. Last question on this. What do you want people to know, or what haven't we covered on your company that people need to know?
I don't know. I think we've covered the basics here. I will say that the scenario that I painted with two options, the caliber and the making a rifle, that's coming in April. So we're not quite there. When you go to the website, if you were like watching this now and you go to the website, you're not going to see that yet because that's the new launch, a whole new thing. We're kind of in this, I would say, phase 2, where we've eliminated a lot of the options when you buy, but not all. We've eliminated all the options like barrel channel. You can get Remington 700, all the clones in one model, but we still are like, if you want a Savage, it's a whole nother mold. And we don't actually offer a lot of those. We don't offer Ruger American. We don't offer Savage Axis. We don't offer Howa 1500 because we just don't have enough capital and enough time and resource to make different molds for all those. So anyway, we're kind of in this like middle phase right now. But again, in April, you'll see a launch where that will drastically change.
Well, keep us posted on that, man, because we'll blast it out because that's exciting to launch that thing out. Question for you on that. What is Graybo?
What is Graybo? We're a rifle stock company. We are the people's rifle stock. And we like this. That really fits who we are because when we started the company, we wanted to be a rifle stock for the people. That's simple. Like if you read our website, the front page, like we associate ourselves with Ronald Reagan and Coors Light and Chuck Norris. And it's, we just have fun with that, and we want people who are just everyday working, hardworking, blue collar Americans to be able to buy rifle stocks. And so where I came from originally, like I said, the stocks were so expensive, you could really only get the high end market, the people with a lot of money. And then there was that kind of like the very low end market. There was nothing in the middle to where like, blue collar people could go to and get a really high quality product and felt like they were going to, have success with it on their hunt or in just regular shooting lives. So that's who we are.
Badass, man. Switching gears on you to your podcast. So that's a whole nother ball game. And I always am interested when a guy starts a podcast that's a special operator because we're told in our careers, keep your mouth shut. We're quiet, silent professionals. And I mean, most of the guys act or at least are introverted. And it's so funny how I see guys like one of my closest friends who is the biggest introvert in the world. He's like, dude, I'm going to go be an actor. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me right now? That's insane to me. So talk to me about why did you start a show? And what's it been like for you being the host?
Sure. I'll say one thing. When I first got out of the military and I started a business, I had my master chief. He also got out at the same time I did at SEAL Team 2. His name was, we called him Matto. And he went and worked. He worked for Black Hawk. And he had taken a look at my website, and he calls me and he goes, "Hey, dude, why don't you have the fact that you're a SEAL on there on your about page under like your profile?" I'm like, "Well, you know, I don't want to, you know how it is."
Yep.
And he goes, "No, dude, you need to put that." I'm like, "Why? Like, are you sure? Like, I feel like that's the wrong thing to do." He's like, "No, dude, do it." So that was kind of my my master chief not long ago, probably less than a year ago, telling me it's okay to do this. And so that was my it took me a long time to feel comfortable, but that was my kind of like, okay, we've earned it. Basically, it's like, you've earned it, dude. Like, you say you're a SEAL. It's totally cool. Like, you've earned it. So that was my entry into saying, like, okay, to myself, that it was okay. Now, I've never been super, in the early days, I was not super comfortable being like the center of the attention,
yeah,
or even like the center of the company. But, as you have a company and you just have to. I mean, I think in today's world, as the owner of a company, people want to know who the owner is,
100%.
and they want to know what you're about. And if they're going to buy product from you, they want to know who you are. It used to not be that way, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but with social media and being a small business owner, they want to know who you are. And so, I just kind of slowly over time just worked myself out of being not wanting to be in the spotlight to just being like, hey, it's all out there. Like, this is who I am. I'm not, I guess what I'm saying is, after I decided that I was not going to go into the CIA and do this business, I'm like, that part of my life is over. And this is the rest of my life. And so I better do the things that are going to make my business successful. And so that's kind of when I said, okay, I'll start stepping out and doing more stuff. As far as a podcast is concerned, I've been trying to start a podcast since 2020. But because of the business, it's just so hard when you're running a business, and we were making our own product, and I had all these employees to manage. It was really challenging. And the last 6 months, almost a year now, we had made some changes in the business to free me up a little bit, free my, just free me up. And when I started the podcast, I just said, I don't want to just talk about firearms. I want to talk about things I'm interested in. And if it goes beyond, Second Amendment, firearms, hunting, fine. I just want to, but this is what I want to do. First of all, I think it'll be good for the company to get more exposure, but also I just want to do this because I want to talk to interesting people. And there's so much stuff that I'm interested in outside of this business too. So I made it about, I'm just going to interview or bring on the podcast people that I'm interested in, and that's it. I mean, last week we just launched this week the primary witness to the Phoenix Lights. What a cool story. And I just wanted to know more about it, and I got to meet the lady, and she's got all these books, and we did a 2-hour podcast, and it was awesome. It was fun, and I get to meet all these really interesting people, and so that to me is what it's all about. Like, I do think ultimately will be good for the business. It'll bring exposure to the business. But ultimately, the podcast is really about, it's more of an evolution for me to meet people and to build a network. Okay, great. But, human connection and relationships are really what it's all about.
100%, man. And you learn so much every time too, even with this short form here. Every time I talk to one of you guys and I listen to your entrepreneurial spirit and I listen to what you guys are doing, what you're building, created, selling, it always makes me level up, figure, how can I be doing better? Because I don't consider myself a CEO. I just consider myself an entrepreneur who is stumbling uphill, essentially. So it's really cool. And then the show, it's so neat because I always look at guys like you who do the not long, but the real standard podcasts that are 2 hours, the real pure versions where you have to ask articulate questions and you have to really get into the background of them and pull them in to expose what their deepness is. And it's fascinating to me. So I'm super excited because when I saw you online and we started reaching out, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start listening to his show because, I can't do a 3-4 hour podcast. I don't have the time for it. But during runs and working out in the gym, transitioning from just death metal music or Metallica and going into a podcast where I'm actually learning a bit, it's been healthy and really cool and rewarding. So I'm super excited for you, man. And I love the idea. Like, this is particular. This show is straight to the point of like PSA for you. What are you doing as an entrepreneur post special operations? But for yours to who you're interested in, that's amazing, because then you really are meeting the people that you thrive off of, that you want to learn more about, and that you get to be in the room with. So that's pretty awesome. I'm super excited.
And for me, I made the decision, just because of what I wanted out of the podcast, to make it in person. I think there will be a point in time where we probably do some interview style ones online, I should say, because I can't reach. It's hard to reach everybody in person that you want to reach, and I'm willing to travel and stuff like that too. But the reason why I wanted to do the in person was because I just really felt the connection. I am an in-person person. That's just who I am. Like I've been asked to do some podcasts and like, oh yeah, we can either do it online or, we're in this city. I'm like, I'll be there. I love to be in person with people. I just think there's a good connection. You build a connection with people in person. You get, more, and you get a little bit deeper with people. And I just love that. I love meeting people and talking to them and having, that connection with them. So that's why I made that decision to do that. It's expensive. We set the podcast room up. It's expensive. We had have to have all the mics and the cameras and everything. So it was an investment for sure, but I'm really happy with what we've done. And, and just, that's the path that we're on. And I'm happy with it. Now we're like, I think we're 22 or 23 episodes in. So we launch one a week. So we've been doing this 4 months or so. And I'm just, every day we get a little bit better. And I think the biggest thing for me now is as an interviewee, I guess you could call me, just getting better at getting the right questions out and not fumbling over my words. And, the stuff that you have to do as someone who's the interviewer.
Yeah. So, the host. Absolutely.
Yeah. The host.
When I started this, I was even screwing up, not just my teammates that I had served with, that I knew their names, and I was messing their names up right out of the gate in the introduction. I'm like, maybe the same for me. But you do stick with it, man. I mean, this is, episode 81 here. And, it is a blessing to open that range of network too. It will exponentially grow your business. People will look forward to hearing from you and hearing these new, interesting stories. And stories are made to be told. That's the key. So,
right.
It's pretty awesome, dude. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man, we're going to put all this stuff out there, let everybody know what you got going on, and direct people to your website to purchase stocks ASAP, especially in April when everything launches. And we'll keep people posted of when that launch comes out, and be checking our Instagram and our social media for that launch. That being said, I always like to close out on a special story, something in your life that either affected you in a massive way, somebody that was a hero that you look up to. Just what is either your most powerful story or a special story you want to share with people about your life that people don't know?
Oh, well, I have to think about this for a second. Well, I think the first thing that really comes to mind is buds. I mean, the farther away I get from buds, the more I really feel like how impactful buds is. Like, I bet, we've both been at war and all this stuff, but when you look back, it's like those training moments that you realize what your body and mind is capable of, where most people will never, and this is no offense to anybody, but most people will never really be able to will be taken that far. And when you're, on your Thursday evening of Hell Week and you've realized you've probably not slept at all. I mean, people say you sleep 4 hours. I don't know about your guys' Hell Week, but like, I don't think we got much sleep at all. I mean, and the little times they put us down I remember one time we dug a hole and they threw the whole class in a hole and said, sleep for, like, I was at the bottom. Every piece of my body was being laid on, was going numb. I couldn't sleep. That wasn't sleep. Yeah. And so what your body, and ultimately what it comes down to is your mind, what your mind can withstand. And I think that in itself is such a valuable lesson to life. you see a lot of people, again, no offense, but a lot of people they can't take a lot of diverse things, and they just don't have a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
And especially in entrepreneurship, like we're talking about here, it takes a lot of pain. And so I think that's a big thing is being able to take a lot of pain, mental pain, whatever you call it, stress, being able to take a lot of that. And so anyway, I guess, I don't know if that's a great story, but, just going through Buds, Hell Week, Pool Comp, some of the most challenging things that you can, realizing that you can do a lot more than most people really think you can. That would be one of my biggest lessons I've learned. And what it keeps you moving forward too. Like, hey man, like I did this, I was able to do this. This isn't anything compared to what I was doing, back in 2001 when I was in Buds.
100%, man. Well, I agree with you. It's funny when you look back at this stuff, and people who have not been through Hell Week and Buds and any type of military training, you don't truly realize how much gas you have in the tank until you're forced upon it and to actually go dig into it to see. But you all do. Everybody does have that extra layer of, I can get through this. And you don't have to be challenged to actually say, I'm going to tap a little deeper today. That's the key. But for us, it's forced us into that environment to where we know there's just levels of suck that we can endure because we had to. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
One of the things that I recently thought about was, I've been out since 2010, went in 2002. And the guys that we served with, because we were roughly around the same time, they're all starting to get out. They're running the shop now. They're running the whole show. But in 5 years, 8 years, my name will never be echoed again in the SEAL teams, and it's an interesting thought. It's kind of weird if you think about it, because when you're there, you're part of that small group of people where you're constantly they're in need of you for some reason. And now it's like, okay, I was a moment in time, and now I truly am a civilian again. So it's just fun to reflect on, especially Buds, because you do learn so much. But it's also fun, right? For the guys who make it, it's fun. There's always something new. There's always something different. There's always a challenge ahead of you. You're always seeing guys that are doing stupid shit, and you see guys that are crushing it. And you're like, I'm so jealous right now. That dude who just crushed that run, and it sucked for me. And now we got a 2-mile swim, whatever. So, yeah. Well, hey man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time today to just share what you got. Cause I know being an entrepreneur, you're busy, you got to run your company, you got a lot of stuff going on, and to be able to stop what you're doing and just share with us, it means a lot to me personally. And I know it's going to mean a lot to the viewers, because I would say 99.9% of the people who watch this show are total hardcore gun nuts. They love shooting, Second Amendment, because that's who we are and what we're allowed to do in the United States. So, thanks for your time, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, brother.
Frogman Friday.